Всем привет! Today we are working with the nominative case, and here is the handout that we'll be working with. And if you watch my previous tutorials, you know that you have a task before you start watching this tutorial. So hopefully you did it. If not, then look at the linked videos in this playlist and really go step by step. I strongly suggest going step by step because, as I explain in a lot of my videos, grammar learning is a very systematic process. It's very structured, and once you get that structure in the system, it will be easier for you to understand the grammatical concepts. So let's go step by step, and please complete the other steps before you get to this one. And today, as I said, we're going to be working through the nominative case and the three contexts out of many more that we will have for this specific case. Now, as I said, I give you three contexts for each case just to kind of like ease you into the concept of the cases. Once you get how these work, then we'll go into more. So, and for now, we're mostly staying in English because we're really trying to understand the cases at the conceptual level. Don't worry, there will be a lot more tutorials where we go into the specifics of how the words change, and we'll work with these charts as well. But for now, let's just understand how the cases work. And we start with nominative. Let me switch my screen. Okay, so here is our chart, and we are starting with nominative. So as you can see, we have three contexts here, context 1, context 2, and context 3, that will all go with the nominative case. And under context 3, there are more than 3 contexts for each case. And again, that will be covered in other videos. Now, here we have our nominative. And as you can see, the very first context says subject, the one that does the action. Now, nominative case is the default case, meaning that the words in their default form, the way they appear in the dictionary, are in the nominative case. And an interesting thing that all of the contexts that I will present to you for nominative, so 3 here and more in another video, they actually all will be subjects. But sometimes it's hard for learners of Russian to distinguish between, like for Russians, for us, they're all subjects. It's very easy. But I found it kind of like easier to present you different contexts for the subjects. So for nominative, remember, like if you have the word in nominative, it is the subject of a sentence. Now, the logic of what the subject is not always the same between Russian and English. Now, in the very first thing, the context for the subject is very similar to English. So subject of the sentence is whoever does the action. So if you have an action verb, there is somebody who does that action, and that person is going to be the subject of the sentence. And the subject of the sentence will be nominative. So here we have мой брат работает в банке, which means my brother works at a bank. Who works at a bank? My brother does, which means that my brother does the action of working at the bank, and my brother is the subject of a sentence. It will be nominative. The next sentence is Mama спит. Mom is sleeping. Who is sleeping? Mom. Mom is the subject of a sentence, and it will be in nominative case when we translate the sentence Mama. So let's switch to the next context. And here it says whatever we have. Now, whatever we have in Russian is the subject of a sentence. It will be in the nominative case. But in English, the logic is different. When we say, I have a car, having is actually an action verb, like who has a car? I do. I'm the subject of a sentence in English. In Russian, we have a totally different construction. We basically are saying the car is there by me. Meaning it's kind of like, the fate just happens to give me the car that's right next to me. And the idea of having something is not an active verb in Russian. It's basically, it's there by me. And that's why whatever it is we have, whatever is there by me, by you, by my brother, is the subject of a sentence because it is there by me, by my brother, and so on. So, for example, if I want to say "У меня есть брат," in English I'm saying I, the subject, have a brother. In Russian, we're just basically saying the brother happens to be there by me. And that makes the brother the subject of a sentence. So in Russian, that logic is very odd to an American, I understand, and to a speaker of English, but that's what it is. And just like in English, you say the brother is there by me to express, I mean, you don't say that, but I'm using it to explain the construction of having something in Russian. So, but in English, if we use that weird sentence, we still say the brother is there by me. So you use the preposition by. In English, in Russian, I'm sorry, in Russian, we use the preposition u, which literally means at or near or by me, my brother, and so on. So to say "У меня есть брат," I have a brother, who whatever we have is the subject of a sentence. Once we go into the next tutorial, we'll talk about genitive because whoever has something is genitive. But what we have or who we have is the subject of a sentence. "У меня есть брат," brat, I have a brother, brother is the subject of a sentence, it will be nominative. The next sentence is "У моего брата есть хорошая работа." My brother has a good job. Again, in English, the brother is the subject of a sentence. Who has a good job? My brother does. In Russian, he just happens. The job is just happens to be there by my brother. So the good job is the subject of a sentence in Russian, and the subject of a sentence in Russian is in the nominative case. Okay, I know it's getting tricky, but here is the next context. Whatever is somewhere. Once again, it is the subject of a sentence. But I do find it easier for my students to kind of like categorize this, have these subcategories of context. So whatever is somewhere is gonna be the nominative case. For example, "Мои деньги в банке," which means my money is at the bank. What is somewhere there, somewhere at the bank? My money. My money is the subject of a sentence. Or another sentence. "В городе есть красивый парк," which literally means in town or in the city, there is a beautiful park. What is there in somewhere? The beautiful park. In the city, in town, and so on. So the beautiful park is going to be the subject of the sentence and is going to be in nominative when we put it into Russian, when we translate it into Russian. So once again, nominative we use to define the subject of a sentence. The subject of a sentence is in the nominative case, but there is no there is a direct correspondence between subjects in English and in Russian, except for some contexts can be trickier. Some contexts can be trickier than others. So next time we're gonna go and look into genitive. Right now, wrap your mind around nominative. And let me switch here. Okay, so before we go into genitive, I want you to think about several sentences that you can put in the comments, and you just put the subject of a sentence in caps. And if you know Russian well enough, you can do it in Russian, but like give me examples for each of these three contexts. And once again, put the subject of a sentence in caps. So for instance, you can say, my mom has an interesting hobby. So in this sentence, put it in English, but decide which words will be in caps, meaning like if you translate it into Russian, these words will be the subject of a sentence and will be in nominative. Okay, so here's your task. So for the next time, look through genitive and kind of try to wrap your mind. Genitive is tricky, but once we go through more cases, I promise you it will start making more sense. Okay, пока-пока.